At a luxurious mansion perched atop the green hills of Beverly, the atmosphere was charged with excitement and subtle tension. The billionaire, Ethan Reynolds, one of the most powerful men in the tech world, was hosting an extravagant engagement party. The chandeliers sparkled like frozen stars, and the sound of violins floated through the hall as guests whispered about his fiancée, the elegant and stunning socialite, Vanessa Hale. Every eye was on her, dressed in a shimmering silver gown that seemed to announce her new status to the world. But beneath the glamour, something unexpected was brewing, something that would shake the entire evening to its core. Ethan, known for his stoic and composed demeanor, smiled politely as guests offered congratulations. Yet, there was a certain stiffness in his expression, a flicker of unease whenever his gaze met Vanessa's. She was everything society adored, beautiful, charming, and ambitious. But to those who knew Ethan well, something about her charm felt rehearsed, her laughter a little too perfect. Still, appearances mattered, especially tonight. As the evening went on, Vanessa whispered something to the event planner, her lips curling into a faint, knowing smile. Moments later, a murmur spread through the crowd, an uninvited guest had arrived. The name echoed like thunder through the hall, Lila Reynolds. Ethan's ex-wife. The woman he had divorced 3 years ago. No one could understand why she was here, least of all Ethan himself. Lila stood at the entrance in a simple navy blue dress, nothing flashy, but she carried herself with quiet confidence. Her eyes, warm yet firm, scanned the lavish room before settling on Ethan. The music softened as conversations paused, and for a brief second, time seemed to stop. Vanessa turned toward the entrance, pretending to be shocked, but the faint smirk that crossed her face betrayed her true intentions. Vanessa had sent the invitation herself. Her plan was simple, to humiliate Lila publicly, to remind everyone that Ethan had moved on from his past. She wanted to make sure no shadow from his previous life lingered in their new beginning. To Vanessa, Lila was nothing more than a ghost of what Ethan used to be. Ethan's jaw tightened as he stepped forward. "Lila, what are you doing here?" His voice was calm, but his eyes held a storm. Before Lila could answer, Vanessa stepped in smoothly, her tone dripping with false sweetness. "Oh, darling, I invited her. I thought it would be classy to show there are no hard feelings between you two." The crowd murmured. Some admired Vanessa's apparent grace, others saw through the condescension in her voice. Lila, however, stood her ground. "That's thoughtful of you," she said quietly, "though I wasn't aware this invitation was meant for public amusement." Her words carried weight, enough to make several guests exchange glances. Vanessa laughed lightly. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. We're all friends here, aren't we?" The tension was thick, but she continued, almost enjoying the spectacle. "Why don't you join us for a toast?" Ethan tried to intervene, but Vanessa had already gestured for the waiter. Lila hesitated, sensing the trap but unwilling to show weakness. As she reached for the glass, Vanessa leaned closer and whispered just loud enough for nearby guests to hear, "I guess it must be strange, seeing him so happy with someone like me. But don't worry, we'll take good care of him." A few guests gasped softly. The cruelty in Vanessa's tone didn't go unnoticed. Lila, maintaining her composure, looked directly into Vanessa's eyes. "Happiness built on hurting others doesn't last long," she replied gently. That simple statement silenced the room. Ethan's face hardened. He could sense the manipulation now. The way Vanessa was using this moment to assert her power. But before he could speak, something happened that no one could have predicted. From the back of the hall, a small voice shouted, "Daddy." Everyone turned. A little boy, about 6 years old, ran through the crowd with tears in his eyes and a toy car clutched in his hand. The entire room froze as the child ran straight toward Ethan and wrapped his arms around his leg. Ethan bent down, his eyes wide. "Liam," he whispered, his voice trembling. It had been nearly 2 years since he'd seen his son. After the divorce, custody had gone to Lila, and though Ethan had tried to stay involved, the demands of his empire and the bitterness of the separation had created distance. The sight of the boy shattered the composure of the room. Vanessa's smile faltered, replaced by confusion and irritation. What is he doing here?" she stammered. Lila's voice was calm but firm. "He wanted to see his father. I didn't plan for this, but when he saw your announcement on TV, he begged me to come." The innocence in the boy's eyes melted away the tension around them. Ethan picked him up, holding him close. For the first time that evening, genuine emotion broke through his stoic mask. "I missed you, buddy," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. Vanessa, however, wasn't moved. Her jealousy burned hotter with every passing second. "So this is the surprise," she hissed under her breath. "You thought parading your child here would make you look like a hero." Ethan turned to her slowly, disbelief in his eyes. "You invited my ex-wife to humiliate her, Vanessa. Don't act like the victim now." The crowd began whispering again, the atmosphere shifting rapidly. What was meant to be Vanessa's night of triumph was unraveling in front of everyone. Lila stood quietly, her dignity untouched, while Ethan held their son, the one piece of his life that truly mattered. Vanessa tried to recover her composure. "I only wanted peace between everyone," she said, forcing a laugh. But no one was buying it anymore. Ethan's expression had changed. He looked at her not with admiration, but disappointment. "Peace doesn't come from cruelty," he said softly. A few guests, uncomfortable with the scene, quietly left the hall. The music had stopped completely now, replaced by the awkward hum of silence. Vanessa's carefully curated image was crumbling. Lila turned to leave, but Ethan stopped her. "Lila, wait," he said. His voice wasn't commanding, it was almost pleading. She turned slowly, meeting his eyes. "You don't have to explain anything," she said. "I came here for our son, not for this circus." But Ethan shook his head. "No, I do have to explain. I've been blind to what really matters." Vanessa's expression darkened. "Are you seriously doing this right now?" she snapped, her voice sharp. Ethan didn't look at her. He was focused entirely on the woman and child in front of him, the family he had once abandoned in pursuit of success. "Lila," he continued, "I thought I needed power, wealth, and status to feel fulfilled. But seeing you both here, I realize I traded peace for pride." His words were raw, unpolished, and deeply human. The crowd, sensing the intimacy of the moment, began to retreat quietly, leaving the trio in the spotlight. Vanessa's fury boiled beneath her skin. "You're making a fool of yourself," she spat. But Ethan turned to her calmly. "No, Vanessa, I've been a fool long before tonight." The silence that followed was deafening. Lila looked down, unsure how to respond. Their son, still in Ethan's arms, looked between his parents innocently. "Are we going home, Daddy?" he asked softly. Ethan's heart broke. "Yes," he whispered, "we're going home." Vanessa stepped forward, desperate now. "You can't just walk away from this. From us," she said, her voice trembling. Ethan set his son down and faced her one last time. "Vanessa, you showed me exactly who you are tonight. And I can't marry someone who finds joy in someone else's pain." The finality in his tone made Vanessa's knees weak. She tried to speak, but no words came. Ethan turned, took his son's hand, and reached for Lila's. For a brief second, she hesitated, but then, seeing the sincerity in his eyes, she let him. Together, they walked out of the grand hall, leaving behind the glitter, the whispers, and the woman who had tried to destroy their dignity. Outside, the cool night air greeted them like a quiet promise. The stars above seemed to shimmer brighter, free from the artificial light of the mansion. Ethan knelt beside his son and said softly, "I don't know if I can fix everything, but I want to try." Lila looked at him, tears welling in her eyes. "You hurt us, Ethan," she said honestly. "But maybe people can change if they truly want to." He nodded. "Then let me prove it. Not with words, but with time." As they walked toward the car, hand in hand, Vanessa stood alone in the doorway of the mansion, her perfect night shattered, her pride turned to dust. The world she had built on appearances had crumbled, while the man she thought she owned had rediscovered something real. And somewhere between the silence and the stars, Ethan realized that the greatest fortune he ever had was never in his bank account, it was walking beside him, holding his hand, calling him Dad.